What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this week's first exclusive segment from the greatest podcast on turf. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Anthony.
And for this exclusive segment, we are going to be doing something a lot different. We did this last year before draft season, and now we're going to be doing it again. We are going to be doing our top 10 mock draft for this upcoming season, looking at who has the top 10 picks right now, some players that they're going to target, some players that we think will go to them at their selection. So be sure to tune in, listen to that. Also be sure to check out our podcast this week, our first one where we do a recap of what happened last week, and our other episodes this week. You know, we got our best bets episode, we still have our stardom sit 'em episode, and we have our weekly pick 'em coming out Thursday.
Absolutely. Can I get Alexa to play It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year real quick? Because mock draft season is my second favorite season of the year besides football season. If you guys know, mock drafting is really what got me into this whole sports media, like being a sports personality type of deal. So I take this shit very serious. It's my thing. I love this. So with that being said, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, show our mock draft some love. We'll be doing more on the podcast. We'll be doing more YouTube videos as far into the farther into the season it gets, especially the NFL. Right now, we just figured we'd bring you guys a top 10. We're going to discuss some names that also could go in the top 10, maybe a couple of the other picks, but it's just too early to tell right now. And we're not that familiar with all the prospects down the board yet, so we figured we didn't want to bullshit you guys or sound like assholes, so we figured we'd bring you guys our best possible content in the best way we thought we could. So with all that being said, like, subscribe, and before we get into the most wonderful time of the year, here's a word from our sponsor.
Little Italy Pizzeria. They got the best cheesesteaks, the best pizza in all of Delaware. 2 locations. One is in Middletown, Delaware. The other one is in Townsend. Great food, great people, great prices. Come in, watch some football. You can see the TVs on the walls right now. Let them know that the greatest podcast on turf sent you. They will take care of you. Also, show proof that you are subscribed, and they will give you an additional discount onto the already one that you let them know that we sent you.
Absolutely. Link to the brand new website is in the description below. And with all that being said, Anthony Lyncher and the Detroit Lions are on the clock with the number 1 overall pick. Now, for me, this could be a number of guys, honestly. Kayvon Thibodeau, obviously. He's a clear-cut number 1 in the class. Maybe even an Evan Neal, depending on, Detroit's kind of solidified at the offensive line position. Maybe even an Aiden Hutchinson, who's really decided to come back this year and has really made a lot of money by deciding to come back instead of going out last year. But with all that being said, I'm probably going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau here out of Oregon, edge rusher to the Lions. Edge is a need for the Lions, and Dan Campbell, the new head coach, he's really solidified the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. He's been pounding the ball with DeAndre Swift calling plays. He has a whole offensive line that took Penei Sewell. So, I'm thinking this year in the draft, they're going to look to revamp the defensive side of the ball more. Yeah, you could argue a quarterback maybe, but, in this quarterback class, we're looking at a Matt Corral, Malik Willis, are my QB1 and QB2 in my opinion, and the number 1 overall pick is a little too early for those guys. So I'll probably go Kayvon Thibodeau. He's great for the trenches in Detroit. He's going to be able to go rush the passer, create havoc against any other offensive tackles he's going against. So with that being said, Kayvon Thibodeau, clear-cut number 1 overall in this draft.
Yeah, I agree with this pick. And watching Oregon games, I watched the Oregon game where they got absolutely blown out by Utah. And the reason that Utah was so good is they absolutely did everything around Thibodeau. They ran to the opposite side of the field. They put multiple tight ends to chip him. They double-teamed him on every single play. They did not leave that man by himself at any moment of the game. They revolved around going on the opposite side of the field and staying away from him. So when you got a player like that, can absolutely change the game plan of teams, and an edge is a very important position on an NFL roster. It's arguably the most important position on the defensive side of the ball, so that is a great pick there. Jumping into number 2, we got the New York, New Jersey bum Jets. Not to trash the Jets, I'm sorry, because you are the number 2 pick, and I feel bad. I feel bad.
Jets.
I feel bad for him. Derek Stingley, cornerback out of LSU. His freshman year, he came on and he was an absolute stud. In high school, he put up crazy numbers that made people thought that he could be the next thing. He had a 4.3 in high school, I think a 42-inch vertical in high school. Man was a stud. Came in freshman year and he absolutely wreaked havoc on basically everybody. He was shutting down everybody. And he's not like he's a corner that's going up against terrible schools. He's in LSU, and LSU plays Bama. They play Georgia. They play other great schools. And Derek Stingley was holding his own against some of these guys. He went up against the Jerry Judys of the world. He went up against all these guys. Devontae Smith, Waddle.
The Kadarius Tonys. I mean,
not to mention Justin Jefferson in practice. He went up against these guys. He has experience against NFL receivers. And no, I'm not saying that he shut him down all the time, because Justin Jefferson is a stud. And in practice, I'm sure that he was probably beating him a few times. Jamar Chase also. But Derek Stingley's talent it's pretty easy to see. He is by far the highest upside corner in this draft class. The only cons is that he's battled injuries the past 2 years in college, leg injuries. So, that's obviously something to look out for. But his talent alone and what he did in freshman year of college, it warrants a top 3 pick. It warrants him being the best corner in football. I hope the Jets don't ruin him with this pick. Him and Marcus May in the secondary is a pretty good secondary. So, give me Derek Stingley at pick number 2 to the New York Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this one. Derek Stingley has been a top prospect for a while now. I remember after his freshman year of college, they were saying if he was eligible to go to the draft, he was a top 5 pick. I mean, like Ryan said, when you're in the SEC shutting down all these first-round wide receivers that you play and all that, I mean, that, like Ryan said, that warrants a top 3 pick. Even if you have battle injuries, I'm sure that he'll get right in the NFL. It's a tough break he's got, but when you have the talent like Derek Stingley, I mean, that's enough to where you deserve being a number 2 pick. So with all that being said, I'm moving on with the number 3 overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, I would love to see a Kyle Hamilton here. I know it's kind of early for a safety. I know safeties don't go that high, but Kyle Hamilton is a monster. Kyle Hamilton's so good. Also could argue Aiden Hutchinson here. Get another piece on the edge outside of Josh Allen, the edge rusher. Caleb Von Chase on
the quarterback.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, what was I saying? Caleb Von Chase has been lackluster. I mean, I didn't think he was going to be very good. He was very raw coming out of LSU 2 years ago now. So I mean, Aiden Hutchinson will be big just because of the positional value. But I think they need to prioritize protecting Trevor Lawrence. He's running for his life out there. It's hard to get James Robinson going in the run game. So with that being said, I'm going with Evan Neal here, the clear-cut offensive tackle 1 in this draft class. Evan Neal is so good. He can pass block. He can run block. He's versatile. And for a team with Cam Robinson on the franchise tag that really doesn't have another offensive tackle on the other side of him, or after Cam Robinson, after he leaves, if they don't re-sign him, they're going to need someone to step in, and Evan Neal is that perfect guy. He's playing in the SEC like Derek Stingley. He's blocking top edge rushers. He's versatile. I mean, if you just watch his gameplay, he's always pancaking someone. He's always making good blocks. He's always pass blocking perfect. So, I mean, if the Jags can get a guy like Evan Neal at number 3 overall to protect their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who's been running for his life through the past 11 games, 10 games we've seen them play. So they got to go ahead and take the chance on Evan Neal there. So go ahead and take him at number 3.
I'm surprised you didn't pull a Cincinnati Bengals and take Justin Ross.
I mean, in theory, yeah. The Bengals, they have kind of been making it work. But we're not going to get into that because it's clearly worked out for the Bengals so far.
You can never go wrong taking an offensive tackle.
Absolutely. There's always, I mean, you look at a team like Dallas with a very good offensive line, but they're always hurt. Plug and play these backup guys they don't have. So that being said, take an offensive lineman, take Evan Neal. Urban Meyer, you probably won't be there, but Jags GM, if you're watching this, Evan Neal at 3 is the guy. Close.
Jumping on to the next pick, the Houston Texans are at pick 4. And I'm not leaving this guy on the board any longer. I'm taking Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 220. That's kind of really enough said for me. You kind of sold me there. Dude is an athlete. He's a stud. He's from Notre Dame. Not a bad school, just produced JOK. They have produced a ton of NFL talent, mostly on the offensive line, but they did just produce JOK. Kyle Hamilton, he's really everything that you need as a safety. He's 6'4", 220. He's good at pass breakups. I think I saw a stat that he has like 22 combined pass breakups and interceptions over the span of his career, and only 5 other guys in Power 5 schools have done that. That is pretty talented, as you can see. If 5 other guys done it, it's pretty talented. So Kyle Hamilton, he can cover. He can also provide run support. Like I said, he's a big body guy. He has a 42-inch vertical. He's explosive. He's a very talented safety, arguably the most athletic person in his draft class. So give me Kyle Hamilton at pick 104. I think he can definitely turn around this Texans defense, which isn't very good. They don't really have much. Justin Reed is safety, I get that. But if you compare him with Kyle Hamilton, I think it's a good pick.
I love this pick. I'm in love with Kyle Hamilton as a prospect. He's so good. If you watch him play, his play speaks for itself. Like Ryan said, 6'4", 220. It's perfect build for a safety. He can do multiple things. He's very good in coverage. He can play in the box as well. And I mean, if you just watch him play, you see how he could be on one side of the field. Quarterback throws it up to the other side. He'll be there to break it up. That says a lot. Kyle Hamilton, if we're paired with Justin Reed, safety for the Texans already on the back end, that's a dynamic duo. You're looking at arguably one of the better safety tandems in the league. So that being said, I love that Kyle Hamilton pick. And moving on to the Jets' second pick in this draft. Now, I really wanted to go offensive line here. I did. But,
That's fair.
I mean, the best tackles on the board are all more left tackles. Charles Cross, he's primarily left. And I always miss his name. Iquanwu from NC State, he's primarily a left tackle as well. But when you have a guy like Mekhi Becton already, who you drafted to play left tackle and who has done enough at left tackle to solidify you not moving him, it's kind of early to draft an offensive tackle that you're going to have to move to, I mean, a whole different position. In the NFL, left tackle and right tackle are two totally different positions. So, I mean, it's kind of tough for me there, so I kind of stayed away from offensive linemen. And I'm going to go ahead and take the best player on the board, and arguably, you can argue that this guy's the best player in the class, Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson could have came out last year, probably would have gone late first, around the first 2 rounds, late first, early second round. But, I mean, he came back another year, and he made himself a lot of money. He went from a potential second, third round pick last year to arguably he could go number 1 overall this year. Aiden Hutchinson, he's all over the field. He's making plays. If you watch him play, similar to Kayvon Thibodeau, teams are planning around him on defense, double teaming him, getting tight ends to chip him and running away from his side. If you can get an edge rusher like that with the positional value of an edge rusher in today's NFL being so high, at number 5 overall, you got to go ahead and take that. And they have nothing on the edge. Yeah, they have Shaq and Carl Lawson. One of them is coming off a bad injury and the other one's okay. Yeah, they just signed Sebastian Joseph Day. But when you got a guy like Aiden Hutchinson on the board, it's too good to pass up on. Robert Saleh is a defensive-minded coach. So him and Aiden Hutchinson, that's a dream scenario. You look at the defense Robert Saleh had with the 49ers, had a bunch of big names, made it work. He'll be able to make it work. Aiden Hutchinson's also a very underrated in coverage as well. So if he's in a 3-4, he can maybe bounce back in coverage. But I mean, primarily in the NFL, I'd love to see him just rushing the passer. But I mean, he can play coverage as well. So Aiden Hutchinson at 5 is the perfect scenario.
Yeah, but Robert Saleh would love to have Nick Bosa back. So drafting an edge rusher here is definitely in, pretty good probability. So the next pick of 106, you got the New York Giants on the clock. Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. Although he is a little bit undersized for a linebacker, I think it is a good pick here. He can rush the passer, but he is also very good at pass coverage. And Nakobe Dean is a guy, he is the leader on this Georgia Bulldogs defense. And that's I feel like that's something that the Giants kind of need. They don't really have that guy to take over the defense, be the guy that's in charge. We kind of see Micah Parsons doing that for the Cowboys. He's kind of just the man for the defense. And I feel like the Giants are missing that dog that they need to take over. Nakobe Dean, I don't know how much you get into PFF, but they ranked them over 90 in rushing the pass and guarding the pass, which I feel like, if you don't really believe in PFF that much, I feel like that is still saying something if he is above 90 in both. No other players are. So Nakobe Dean, SEC guy. As you guys know, SEC produces the best defensive players in all of football. They are the defense of the college football. He goes up against Bama. He goes up against LSU. Granted, they're not doing that good this year, but he goes up against Bama. He is Georgia. He is the best player on his Georgia defense, and Georgia is the best defense in college football. So give me the leader out of Georgia. I know he is a little bit undersized, but I think he's athletic enough to make things happen, and the Giants get their dog linebacker.
Now, I love this pick, honestly. Nakobe Dean, he's one of my favorite prospects in the draft. I would love to see him go to Miami at 14, but in this, they're at 14 right now. But in this scenario, it didn't work out that way. I love Nakobe Dean as a player. If you watch him on film, he's one of those guys that flies all over the place. He reminds me a lot of JOK last year, just without the coverage skills. He can't go back and play on the boundary corner. But, he can play in the side. He can guard a tight end. He is very good in zone. He just doesn't have the ability like JOK did to go play boundary corner. He's a perfect prospect. I love Nakobe Dean. Just his, like I say a lot about a lot of these guys, their film and watching these guys play says a lot. Nakobe Dean's another guy who's flying all over the field. He's getting involved in different blitz packages that Kirby Smart's been drawing up. He's making big plays. He's a big playmaker that the Giants lack on defense. Yeah, they have Bradbury on corner. He's okay. Jabril Peppers is hurt. They lost Blake Martinez early in the season, and they have nothing now. I can't tell you who their middle linebackers are watching the game right now. So, Nakobe Dean, I love that there. And for this next pick, it's always funny how it works out where Dave Gettleman will end up drafting defensive linemen. And I thought about going Jordan Davis, the other Georgia Bulldog here, the 6'6", 350-pound monster that plays for Georgia. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the better prospect here, in my opinion, DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. DeMarvin Leal is a guy who I've been finding him, looking at other mock drafts and seeing him play. He's a guy that reminds me a lot of what happened with Gregory Rousseau last year, where he was a Sherlock top 3 pick, and now he's kind of dropping down draft boards and just falling down in the rankings a little bit just because his play hasn't been all that good. But Dave Gettleman will always find a way to draft an interior defensive lineman or a defensive lineman in general. You look at Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, the list goes on and on. Dave Gettleman loves his defensive linemen. And DeMarvin Leal, he's a guy with top 3 talent, with upside. This draft is just very loaded on the defensive side, and defensive tackle isn't that high of a value compared to a defensive end or a running back or an offensive tackle per se. But DeMarvin Leal's a dream fit to the Giants. He can run the ball really good. He can pass the ball. He just all around, he's a really stud of a prospect. I also thought maybe interior offensive lineman here. What's the guy's name? I was just thinking about him. Kenyon Green. I was thinking about Kenyon Green here. But the Giants offensive line, they have a lot of different guys. Kenyon Green's a guard. The Giants, they have a lot of guys. They're still trying to figure out the offensive line. But that is why we mock draft. We'll have a better understanding of who the positional needs for each team as the season ends based off injuries, other factors like that. But DeMarvin Leal is too good to pass up on. The Giants defense has been very lackluster this season, and I think for them, if they have 2 back-to-back picks and they load up on defense, that's the Dave Gettleman thing to do.
Jumping into the next pick at 107. 108. The Philadelphia Eagles are taking Spencer Rattler, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Now, I understand that he did not have a great year this year at Oklahoma, but Caleb Williams just looked a lot better. Jumping into the real pick, Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. I know that's not his real name, but that's his nickname. That's what he prefers to be called by, and I will do that. He is a 6'3" corner out of Cincinnati. He has started ever since his freshman year. I like that. He has a ton of experience. He's only allowed 87 yards on 368 coverage snaps. That is pretty good. That is talented, I would say. He doesn't get the ball thrown to him a lot. Granted, I know he's in Cincinnati, so I know he's not in that Power 5 conference, so I know he's not going up against the Justin Jeffersons of the world. But he's still a stud. You still can't put what he's done behind him. I know the talent might not be that good, but he's been absolutely dominating it. He has been the best corner in college football this year, and it's not really close at all. Look, I get it, Cincinnati, but he is still 6'3". He is still putting up great numbers. He still has a dog mentality. His name is Sauce Gardner. With all that being said, I feel like the Eagles have to take him here at 108.
Now, the Eagles are going to take Spencer Rattler.
Yes.
They're going to take George Pickens or Justin Ross coming off a bad injury.
Yes.
And then maybe they'll hit on one of their picks in the middle rounds. Because that's the Eagles thing to do,
Yeah, they'll hit on a defensive lineman.
But yeah, I love the Sauce Gardner pick. Sauce Gardner, I would love for him to end up in a Patriot uniform after the draft. I would love that so much if he would go to the Patriots. Patriots need secondary help. But we'll touch on that on one of our later mock drafts when we go 1 to 32.
He's got to be on the other side of big play Slay.
Who's sorry? Anyways, fell off a cliff like Diggs. Like I said in the group chat earlier. You didn't like that one too much, did you?
No. Our defense is good.
But I love that Sauce Gardner pick. Moving on next, the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are such a weird team because they traded away Julio. Oh, they're going to draft a quarterback. But then they took Kyle Pitts, which doesn't make sense to me. The Falcons are they're a poverty franchise. The Falcons suck. Their new head coach is okay. They have Cordell Patterson.
The best utility guy in all of football history.
Yeah, that's about it, though. Kyle Pitts has been lackluster. Their defense sucks. A.J. Terrell has been very, very good. Grady Jarrett's still there.
Deion Jones.
He was making a couple plays against the Patriots, so I'll give him that. But now for this one, I think after this year, the Falcons have to go rebuild. Matt Ryan sucks. He's not the answer. He's sorry. Matt Ryan is Tony Romo. Matt Ryan is Phillip Rivers. Matt Ryan is Kirk Cousins. They're all the same dude. Matt Ryan, yeah, he had one MVP year.
Matt Ryan is Matt Stafford.
No. But so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take Malik Willis here out of Liberty.
Willis.
No, absolutely not. Malik Willis here to the Falcons. I think it's Matt Corral or Malik Willis here. I just think Malik Willis is he's more of a prototypical quarterback prospect you would look at. I mean, he's kind of polar opposite of Matt Ryan. He does a lot of what Matt Ryan does, but better, in my opinion. What is he? How
big is he?
Malik Willis, 6'1", 215, where Matt Corral, what is he, 5'11", 6 foot?
6'1".
Yeah, I mean, Malik Willis, he has all the intangibles, though he can throw the ball very good. He's arguably has the better arm than Matt Corral. He's a little more accurate. He's athletic. He can run a read option offense. And I mean, with the new head coach and with a quarterback like Malik Willis, imagine what you can do in the option game and with a new offense with Malik Willis and a Cordell Patterson, because I'm sure he'll be there. Hopefully they get Calvin Ridley back. They'll have Kyle Pitts. Their offensive line has been up and down at times. So, I mean, Malik Willis to the Falcons, I think it's too good of a fit. I think that's what the Falcons need. Get back to that Michael Vick style offense they had. Let him just do his thing and be a playmaker before they got Matt Ryan and before all that stuff happened. So, I mean, Malik Willis, I love the fit to the Falcons, especially with the potential that could be there.
The final pick that we will be doing, and this is another team that should be taking a quarterback, or should have took one last year, just like the Falcons.
Yes.
Is the Washington football team, and they will be taking his boy Matt Corral.
He's
been saying this, I think, at the start of the college football year, and not that I disagree, but I didn't really listen because I didn't know and I didn't care. But Matt Corral is arguably the best quarterback in this draft class coming out of Ole Miss. He is a little bit undersized, being only 6'1", 200 pounds. He will gain some weight. He will gain some muscle being in the NFL, but he's athletic. We see he can run the ball in college football. He is playing against great defenses. He is also pretty talented throwing the ball. We see NFL offenses nowadays, they kind of prioritize a quarterback that can get them a first down when they see it open. Matt Corral is a guy that can do that. He's in Ole Miss. He's battled some injuries. He's also played with receivers that have battled injuries, so he has gone through adversity, and he has come on top. I like quarterbacks that are from good schools. As you guys know this, I do not like quarterbacks from North Dakota State.
Or Liberty.
Give me the guy from Ole Miss that is going through it all, going up against Bama, Georgia, LSU, Mississippi State, going up against real NFL players. And granted, even if he struggled sometimes, I just like to see players who earned it and have got their ass kicked on a Saturday.
Absolutely, and I mean, I love this pick. I've been watching Matt Corral since he was in high school, actually. I love Matt Corral as a player. He's a great leader. Yeah, he's undersized. I don't care. He does his thing. He's a baller.
So is Kyler.
He has swagger. And, I mean, these two picks, if this is how the draft ends up being and the quarterbacks end up falling 2, 9, and 10, I could see these picks being interchangeable. I think if this was the draft order, the picks would be quarterback to these two teams. But I went based off of this personally that I'd rather see Matt Corral as a Washington football teamer than an Atlanta Falcon, because the Falcons are a poverty franchise. Like any other time, I'd go Matt Corral first over Malik Willis. I just would rather not see him as a Falcon because they suck. So yeah, with that being said, here's the greatest podcast on turf. First 2022 NFL mock draft. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Check out our TikTok page for our waiver wire pickups this week. Check out the podcast this week. We talked about a lot of different stuff. Be on the lookout for many more mock drafts coming soon.
Pick 11, Philadelphia Eagles take Spencer Rattler. Just thought we'd throw it in there.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler, 3 quarterbacks back to back to back. The Eagles suck. We'll see you guys on Thursday with our Stardom Sit 'em and our Pick 'em podcast.
See you.
Peace.